It's an absolutely beautiful Friday, and too good to pass up to make a video with this scenery in the background and everything. It's a good day to beat the hell out of Minnesota. That's what it is. It's much warmer than I thought it would be earlier in the week. I said it was going to be in the mid 40s. Tonight it's supposed to be low of 60, I think, and which is really nice. Um, Somebody, I think, in the comments section on one of these videos had asked me why I love Nebraska so much. And this is a good day to answer that question. Or at least I think it was somebody. It could have been a voice in my head. I have those. Not as many as I did before I died, because when I died, they brought me back to life, and some of the voices never came back. Go figure. I'm gonna miss some. Anyway, that's a subject for another day. So, why do I love Nebraska so much, even though I've lived in Minnesota since 1987? I grew up in Curtis, Nebraska, which is in southwest Nebraska, about 35, 40 miles south of North Platte. Kind of in the middle of nowhere. It was a good place to grow up. It was small. It gave me a lot of opportunities I wouldn't have had in a bigger city. I got to play football and run track. I wasn't really particularly a very good athlete. Uh, I tried basketball, but it requires coordination. But when I left there, and you had to leave there, like, most rural areas have been dying for decades. Unless you had a farm or a business, there was no reason to stay. When I left, I went to the University of Nebraska Lincoln. And my first 2 years of a 7-year career to get a 4-year degree, I spent on Schramm 6. And I was surrounded by people that were I was really blessed by the people I was surrounded by. Really fantastic people. I think my first year, one of the first weeks we're on the dorm floor, 50 out of the 60 people on the dorm floor went to a party together. That's probably unheard of. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But we got along very well. And I ended up with roommates that were very good people and helped me grow a lot. Because when I left Curtis, I'll probably get emotional. When I left Curtis, I didn't have any self-esteem. I didn't have any confidence. I probably didn't look any different from the outside, but I didn't have any idea of who I wanted to be or what I was or any things like that. And the time I spent at the University of Nebraska Lincoln really helped me form the answers to some of those questions. A lot of it was the people I was around, not just teachers, but around the other students, a lot of who went on to be life friends and honestly provided me with, I could ask them for advice and they'd give it. For example, uh, one of my roommates was Roger Aden, Professor Roger Aden, or Dr. Roger Aden. He's been at the University of Ohio as a speech professor for his career. I got out of school, and when I got out of school, I started a career in IT because I talked my way into an IT job, and I started writing. I started writing for magazines because I knew friends of mine at the Daily Nebraskan that were getting albums and books, and they would sell those albums and books and buy beer instead of having to sell plasma or blood like the rest of us. So I got a job. I talked my way into writing for a really crappy magazine so I could review software, so I could get better at software. And it really furthered my career a lot. And because of that, I got into a better magazine. And the first time they set me up to do public speaking. And the first time I ever publicly spoke, it was in front of 750 people at the Minneapolis Convention Center at a strictly business conference. And before that, I called Roger and I said, "What do I do? I have this big speaking thing and I can't eat, I can't sleep, think I'm going to die." And he basically said, "You need to be yourself when you're up there. Otherwise, if you try to be something else, they're going to know it and they hate you for it." And that carried on through, the public speaking and that I did for the next several years. And the thing about the public speaking is this. I ran for student body president as the president of the Scum Party as a sixth-year undeclared senior. And you might think, what the hell, six-year undeclared senior? Well, first of all, back to the public speaking thing. Because I did run for student body president, I was in situations where I had to speak publicly, and I did very poorly. I froze up. Roger actually would be in the audience sometimes and would coach me with his hands or something like that. But I froze up, and I told myself after I was done with that experience that I would do public speaking and I would never have that problem again. I just resolved that I would be better. And Roger helped me with advice through that. So that was one way that people at Nebraska helped me. Undeclared senior, 6th-year undeclared senior. What I discovered is if you were in the I spent like the first 2.5, 3 years of my career at Nebraska in engineering, trying to be a double E electrical engineer. I got past physics 213, nuclear physics. Shout out to anybody ever took that class under Professor Katz and all the PTSD that gave us. You're too stupid to know this subject. Why do you ask that question? But what I discovered is if you were in the undeclared college, you could take any course you wanted at Nebraska and nobody checked your prerequisites. And this came to an end one day when I was in computer science, because I was taking 300 and 400 level computer science courses. And the Celia Daly, who was the head of the computer science department, was leading the course, teaching the course in Ada. It was a language that was supposed to take over the world years ago and never really became much, I don't think. But she stands up in front of the class and she reads off some names and she says, you people can't take this class. You didn't pass the prerequisite. So those people all got up and left. And then she goes, John Johnston, I want you to come talk to me after this class. So of course I came and talked to her and she's like, Mr. Johnston, I know all of my computer science students and you are not one of them. How did you get into this course? And she was the type of person that you knew you couldn't bullshit. So I didn't lie to her. I said, I'm an undeclared student. Nobody checks my prerequisites. And here I am. I've been doing this all over the place. I didn't really say that, but I'd taken 300 and 400 level courses, in whatever college I wanted. I wasn't on track to get a degree. So she says, well, that will never happen again. And you can stay in this class if you can do the work. So I did finish that course. I don't know what I got C's and everything. Didn't matter how good I was or not. But I didn't want to be in engineering. I probably wasn't good. I wasn't disciplined enough as a student to actually be an engineer. Other friends of mine were graduating in EE and I didn't like the jobs they were doing. And it wasn't interesting to me. So I did photography. The other thing happened to me running for a 6-year undeclared senior is I got called into the admissions office or who's ever in charge of shit. And they said, you can't do this. You have to declare a major. So I literally sat down and went through all the books in all the colleges and determined that I was closest to getting an art degree. I only needed 2 years of language. And I did that. I have a BA in art with minors in physics, math, film studies, and I think computer science. But all the way through that, all the years that I spent at the University of Nebraska, I learned I learned confidence. I learned self-esteem. And when I ran for student body president as president of the Scum Party, what happened was I discovered I have an ego. I had an ego and it could be fed. And that was the birth of the attention whore that you see before you now. So Nebraska, I feel like I owe my life to UNL. I love Lincoln. Unfortunately, when I graduated, there were a lot of people, there weren't any jobs. So all my friends left and got jobs in other cities and other towns. And another thing that Nebraska did for me is I had a professor of photography, Dave Reed, who was an absolutely beautiful person, wonderful professor, brought us up to Minneapolis to help run a convention put on by the SPE, the Society of Photographic Educators. And at that conference, I met people. I met Garrison Keillor because we were supposed to help put on the conference. I met Garrison Keillor because he was going to speak. He met me at the door before he entered where he was going to speak, and I was wearing a Scum button, and he asked me about it. And then he told me about in the late 60s, there was a Scum apparently a women's group that was the scum group, and they were the Society to Cut Up Men. So we had a lively conversation. But the thing about it was, is I got to see Minnesota and I got to see Minneapolis. And Minnesota, the Twin Cities are an absolutely beautiful place to live. As you can see, you get outside the Twin Cities and it becomes the country, and the lakes and forests are absolutely amazing. But I don't know what else I could say about Nebraska. You know, 7 years. You're thinking of that John Belushi bit from Animal House, 7 years of college down the drain. Well, I finished and I got my degree. And then I talked my way into a career because the people in the home ec college, they call it something different now, I'm sure, let me have a job in one of their labs. So I had computer experience that I could put on a resume. The University of Nebraska is a very special place to me. It always will be because of the people. And God, it didn't help that we could go to the football games and watch, Tom Osborne's teams usually beat the shit out of everybody. That was a good blast too. So that's why I left Nebraska. I suppose I could go on a little bit more, but it really helped build me into the person I am today. And I mostly like the person I am today. It's been a kind of a journey through life, but that's what life is. Y'all take care. Love y'all. Thanks for the support. Go Big Red. It never clicks off.